Welcome to another edition of Under the Bus. Three old guys who've been on a few buses in our day, extolling the virtues of sport, but also throwing a whole lot of sports people under the bus. I'm Bob Stevens from ESPN SportsCenter's Glory Days, joined by Curry Kirkpatrick of Sports Illustrated's Glory Days and Hall of Fame coach Rich Basirico, who just has nothing but glory days in his world. Huh?
I wish.
The world is all about Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and Brock Purdy's 49ers in the Super Bowl in Vegas. Curry, who do we throw under the bus first? Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson or Lions coach Dan Campbell?
How about Dan Campbell? How about we start with him?
Yeah,
I mean, Rich, you're a coach. Give me your give me your decision making in those 3-4 downs.
Well, I like that he's aggressive. I really do like the aggressive. And, I've said this before, coaching would be easy if you knew what the end result was going to be. When you make those decisions, if you know what's going to happen, obviously don't make that decision. If he thought they were going to get, I just didn't like the play calling. I thought it was good that he went for it, but I just didn't like they were throwing downfield. Get the first down. You only got to get 3 yards or 2 yards. They threw some passes to their tight end. They have two very good tight ends. Just get the ball in his hands. Laporta is terrific. He's a rookie tight end. He's outstanding. He was the leading receiver on the team that game, for most games actually. But I thought the play calling was good. The decision making I liked. The play calling I didn't like.
Well, Campbell coaches like he's still a player. I mean, players all want to go for it, and they're the go for it boys. So, right. At the end of the first half, though, I thought he'd go for it. I thought he'd go for the TD. Even if he doesn't make the TD, he probably makes the first down and he continues on and he can get the TD on the next play. I was kind of surprised he went against, his nature there and kicked a field goal. And it didn't put him up. It put him up 24-7 instead of 28-7.
Right.
I think it's a big difference. I think momentum. Yeah, I think momentum is a real thing in pro football, especially at playoffs. And when he kicked the field goal instead of going for the touchdown, I was kind of surprised. You said it'd be easy if you knew the result. It reminds me of, the whole Detroit thing. I think, Bob, you might have brought this up a couple weeks ago. Reminded me of the old drunken quarterback, Bobby Lane, who's a great player from Detroit. He was traded to Pittsburgh in 1958, and he proclaimed that Detroit will never win anything for 50 years. Well, he was off by about 16 years because, they got to this game. But Lane also, who was a noted alcoholic, late in his life, he made the great statement. He said, if I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. And if Campbell had known his defense was going to collapse, and he probably would have gone for the touchdown at the end of the half. But I'm like you, Rich. But I'm like you, Rich. They ran the ball, I think, 21 times in the first half, 178 yards or something. They were just gashing.
Right.
They were just gashing the team, and then they stopped running the ball in the second half. I mean, Detroit had 3 runners, I think, at the half who had more yards than McCaffrey, who was the leading rusher in the league. And all of a sudden,
they stopped running. Right.
But I think they panicked.
If you know that you're in 4 down territory, right, and it's 3rd down, you got 2 downs, you get 3 yards, you run the darn ball. They were running all over them, like you say, Curry. I don't know why they stopped. I think coaches overcoach sometimes. Go with what works for you. And they were pounding them. They were pounding them. Go for it. Like I said, I think what he did, I like what he did. I just thought the play calling wasn't very good.
It was stunning. And then the two 4th downs that he went for it instead of kicked a field goal, he didn't run the ball those 2 times either.
Right.
Goff threw a nice pass to Reynolds on one, and Reynolds dropped the ball. Right. Well, that's what a guy from Kutztown State does. Then on the second one, he has Goff rolling out. Instead of, as you said, he's got Montgomery and the rookie who were having terrific games, and he doesn't give him the ball to get the first down.
And then down in that last 30 seconds, when he had to be saving timeouts, he did try to run the ball at the goal line, and it didn't work. And I think you hit on it, Curry. I think it's a momentum game. He had the momentum in the first half, and he backed off just a touch. And then in the second half, he had to break the momentum. Scoring 3 points might have broken the momentum because the snowball was rolling all over him, and he didn't. He continued to go for it. And I don't, again, like you said, Rich, I don't mind him going for it. His play calls were probably a little shaky. Still a great year.
The play calls are done by the offensive coordinator, supposed to be a genius, Ben Johnson, who's supposed to be getting the Washington Commanders job. I mean, I didn't hear any blame go to him. I mean, he's the play caller, right?
That's right.
I just,
both coordinators are up, I think, for the Washington job.
The
defensive coordinator,
of course, with all of that said, it took the miracle bounce pass to Brandon Ayuk off his helmet to change the whole game. That changed the game.
Right.
I mean, but that play
fumble too, and that fumble.
That was one of the great. Well, the fumble was right after that, but the helmet, the bounce pass, I call it the greatest bounce pass in history. Bounce off the guy's helmet into Ayuk's hands, and Ayuk said after the game what he told Aaron Andrews that he found a ladybug on his shoe before the game. And of course, that's good luck. That's good luck.
How about the other game? Kansas City. You know what? That Mahomes guy's pretty good.
He's terrific.
He's been the underdog now 2 weeks, and he'll be the underdog going into the Super Bowl. How do you make Patrick Mahomes an underdog to Brock Purdy?
That's a good question. But when you look at 49ers, think about it. They have the best running back. They have a terrific tight end, maybe not as good as Kelce, but he's pretty darn good. And then their wide receivers are better than the wide receivers from Kansas City. And then plus their defense is very good, San Francisco, but Kansas City's defense is terrific. But if you're going to throw anybody under the bus, I mean, Zay Flowers, the rookie receiver, he gets called for taunting, then he fumbles the ball going into the end zone, and then he slams his hand on the bench and cuts his finger.
Gets a laceration.
How bad could that be? Taunting, fumbling, and cutting your finger. That was embarrassing. You caught the pass. Get up and get ready to go score. They have to push the ball back 15 yards, and then he tries to reach across the goal line. Come on, that's awful. And Lamar Jackson, why doesn't he run the ball? That's his strength. His strength is running the ball. He's passing. He had 8 rushes, and there were only 8 other rushes by 3 players. So they rushed the ball 16 times in the game. Lamar Jackson's not a great passer. Is he good? He's average. He's decent. But man, running the ball, everybody, that's what they have to defend him running it. He really never took off like he should have.
Yeah, both losing teams didn't run the ball in the second half. I mean, they went away from what they do. I thought Flowers. I thought that was the key play of the game, though. Rich, his name is Xavier. They call him Zay because his full name is Xavier Kevon Flowers. Kevon has 2 ends, nervy and naughty. And I thought the taunting was ridiculous. Zay Flowers is the 11th of 14 children. He has 13 brothers and sisters, and he acted like a little bitch looking for attention from his siblings on the whole sequence. I mean, you're right. He gets taunting, and then he taunts the defensive back. Is it Spears? One of the great defensive backs in the league. And then the football gods got him on the next play when he goes and he fumbles in the end zone, and Spears gets him there. I thought that was a key play of the game. Even before the game, it seemed to me Baltimore lost their composure. And remember at the pre-game, Mahomes and Kelce kept moving Justin Tucker's kicking equipment. Did you see that? They had this little tiff. And I think it was all psychological. Yeah. And then because one of the Baltimore players went and punched the Chiefs guy in a pregame thing. They had to separate the whole teams. And then during the game, I mean, Kelce was terrific, right?
He was.
I mean, he was. I thought on their first drive when Mahomes threw the touchdown pass to Kelce, who caught it over the great defensive back. I thought that was a real key to the game because he kind of took the juice out of the crowd. They got up real quick. He threw 2 touchdown passes. They got up quick, 14, and they never looked back after that. But I thought Baltimore then just lost their composure. They started trying to hurt people. I mean, that one guy hit Mahomes in the face. Kelce kept getting into it with. Yeah, Kelce kept getting into Van Noy, and he got Van Noy to headbutt him. Remember that? And they got the penalty, and Kelce's laughing. And it was, I mean, Kelce's a trip. I mean, you got to give it to this guy. I mean, Taylor Swift or no Taylor Swift.
You know, he was the leading. Obviously, he was the leading receiver for Kansas City at 11 catches for 116 yards, and then Laporta was the leading receiver for Detroit with 9 catches, 97 yards. Where all of a sudden tight ends are the leading receivers? Well, that really hasn't happened often in the NFL. This year it has, but in past years, the tight end was, he caught the ball once or twice during the game, but now they're looking for their tight ends more and more. Which is great, which is really good.
The 2 losing teams, probably their best pass catchers are their tight ends. I mean, Baltimore, Andrews finally got to play, but although they never looked for him, even when they started throwing the ball around in the second half, they didn't throw it to him. And then, San Francisco, we're going to see Kittle in the Super Bowl probably catch 8 balls for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he and Kelce are going to be critical to what happens in the Super Bowl.
I've read a lot. I read a lot after the game how Mahomes and Kelce, they're just so connected. Some guy was saying he went to the Chiefs and he looked at all his play calling. Then he watched Mahomes and Kelce in practice, and they never did anything that was on the play call list. I mean, it's all natural to them. Wow. Kelce doesn't run routes. He just runs out there and gets open, and then Mahomes just runs around and tries to find him, and they connect. I mean, it's
like growing up playing touch football. You diagram on your hand, like you go out and turn around. When you look at Kelce routes, Curry, you're so right. What is he just runs out and finds open space? He gets it to him. He doesn't outrun people. He doesn't make great cuts. He just runs to the open space. He's looked like he's scattershot, running around like he's looking for Taylor in the box. Where is she? And then
let's close with a little note on Taylor. She's supposed to be playing in Tokyo, the last of a 4-night run, the night before the Super Bowl. But because of the dateline and because of private jets and all that stuff, she's going to make it home, or to Vegas anyway, for the Super Bowl. If they can find her a place to land, she can't get into Vegas. All the slots are full. But they can get her to L.A., and they can drive her or transport her somehow.
No, they're going to find it.
Time for the game.
No. They'll find a spot for a plane. She's going to be 17 hours ahead in Tokyo, so she's going to get there. She's going to get there before sunup of Super Bowl. I think they'll find a spot for a plane. Well, but listen, that's 2 weeks from now. This coming week, there's no football, but there still is Taylor Swift because Sunday night is the Grammys, and she's going to be at the Grammys Sunday night. And are we going to bet that Kelce might be there?
You would imagine there's a spot at the table for him, huh?
The Chiefs are what, 1.5 dog in the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
something like 1.5. I give Kelce a better chance of 1.5 to get to the Grammys on Sunday.
I think so. Talking about flying her plane, if she has enough money, they can build an airport for her.
Exactly. I'm just. You saw them kiss on the field. I guess everybody saw that. But right before that, I saw some video. Kelce is wiping the slobber and the snot off his nose just before he kissed her. Oh my God! It was such a yuck. It was a Taylor's written a song about that, by the way. It's called Romeo and Juliet. But did you see the great clip of her giving a fist bump wave to Andy Reid, who was on the podium? And Andy looks right down at Taylor Swift and points there. I mean, it's so sweet, this thing. It's getting out of hand. I'm just glad their relationship is finally out in the open.
Yeah, well, such a secret for so long.
Yeah.
All right, up next, the favorite sport of two out of the three of us. You figure out which two. College hoops next. Plenty of bodies to go under the bus. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. We're going to talk college hoops. I'm going to start this discussion because then I'll probably be done. I'm going to start it with Caitlin Clark, the Iowa junior superstar. She's just 4 games away, maybe less than 2 weeks from breaking the women's career scoring record. She's less than 10 games away from Pistol Pete's men's career record.
Wow.
She's still got another year left if she wants it. Tickets for road game against Northwestern this week, probably because it's Chicago and Chicago sports fans haven't seen anybody win in quite a while. Tickets for a road game at Northwestern are going for $1,300.
Yikes.
Iowa Northwestern women.
Yikes.
She's made about $3 million in NIL money in her career. She's the story these days.
Well, she's an outstanding player. She's amazing. Her range and her jump shots is unbelievable. Where she shoots her three from is like you can't. I can't even think about even attempting a shot from there, and she's burying those shots.
Yeah, everybody's watched her all year, but I thought the best. If I'm going to pay that, I'd like to see them lose to see Caitlin run onto the court again and get bounced around, because that was the funniest Caitlin Clark moment. I hope her team doesn't lose much, because she goes, she's angry. She goes on the court looking for somebody to bounce. And
so, Curry, we weren't the only people that thought that. There were other people who thought the same
I know.
thing.
I know. Well, it looked that way. I don't know. I didn't realize she's that close. I didn't realize she's that close to my boy Pistol Pete, though. She's what, 10 games away from
less than 10. Yeah, she's 10 games away from his number.
But there's got to be a side note. Pistol Pete didn't have the 3-point line.
That's true. That's true. Just think of what he would have scored with 3-point.
He would average 60.
Yeah.
I remember him though shooting? I mean, he shot all the time, but how much of it was that far outside? He was such a great ball handler. He could get in. It seemed to me a lot of his stuff was 18 to 20 feet and not so much. Now, had there been a 3-point line, he'd have probably been behind. Right?
Exactly.
Well, he did a lot of outside shooting. though. I remember one great game that I saw him in Hawaii when he was I think it was his junior year, and he played against St. John's, Rich, and this was in the Rainbow Classic or something. It was an early game, second or third round, and St. John's was up by 10 at the half. And Pete had like 20 or something. In the second half, Pete Maravich scored 40 points. And he ended the game, LSU ended the game winning by 10. And the entire St. John's team, which was mostly African Americans, they hadn't seen Pete Maravich before this. This was before the internet, before TV showed much college basketball. They went out and they embraced Pete. They just went out. They had just been destroyed, and they all went out and embraced Pete Maravich. It was an unbelievable scene in Hawaii.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw him. I did a bunch of stories on him from even in his NBA career, and he's still the most amazing player I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Pete
I don't
Maravich.
think you'll ever see a player like that again. What he could do with basketball, he's amazing. I worked.
Are we seeing one though in Caitlin Clark?
I'm saying it again.
Are we seeing one though in Caitlin Clark? Is she pistol crazy like he was in
Pistol Finn? Yeah, she plays a lot like him. I mean, and she looks, she's all this gangly arms and legs, which is what
Yeah.
Pistol was. Yeah, it's a good comparison.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say I worked at a basketball camp with one of Pistol's teammates who played in the backcourt with him, and I asked him questions about Pete, and he said, we'd be on a fast break, and we'd be, if I was trailing the play, sometimes he said I would stop and just watch to see what he was going to do with the ball because we never knew what he was going to do with it. He literally said I would stop at half court and just watch what he was going to do with it.
Yeah.
He says he was absolutely amazing with the basketball, and you never knew what was coming your way because he'd do different things. And some of the things he said he would invent things that you never would imagine that he would do. Funny story is his dad would, after games, Pete would have to sign basketballs for people, so his father, Press, would say to the players, look, we don't have a lot of time in the locker room here. How about everybody grab a basketball and just sign his name? So there's plenty of Pete Maravich's autographs out there that he didn't sign. It was done by his teammates.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, to get to modern day basketball, Rich, it's about time people started looking at these number one seeds, and bracketology experts are going crazy already, putting brackets up and where teams are going to go and so forth. I saw where, the top four seeds are now Purdue, Connecticut, Houston, and North Carolina. I don't know if you saw the Houston game last night. They had a great game against Texas in Austin. It was a great game, went overtime. And Houston has a guard named Shed, who is a point guard who is just terrific in the game. He had 25, and I think he's going to be first team All-American. Jamal Shed, he's a senior there, and Houston plays terrific defense. But I was going to say Lenardi, the bracketology guy, has Carolina as the number one seed in the West, but being the fourth, Connecticut, Purdue, and Houston all have better records. So Carolina would get the West. And unfortunately, then he's got us playing us. I say us. By that, I mean the Tar Heels. He's got them playing in the regional final against Arizona in Los Angeles. But Los Angeles is Arizona's second home court. So I don't like that one.
But I like the matchup for North Carolina against Arizona. Arizona is not playing well at all.
Wait a minute. I know you think they're overrated, Rich. They got beat on the road by Oregon State on the weekend. But then the next day or 2 days later, they come back and destroy Oregon on Oregon's home court. And Caleb Love could have had 50 in that game. He had 25 or something at half. He got 37. He could have got 50 in that game. I mean, they were terrific. I disagree.
Don't get me wrong. They're good. They're good, but
I think they're really good.
I think North Carolina, if that does happen, they play each other. North Carolina wins that game, in my opinion.
Well, but if they're
North
playing in Los Angeles, well, that's my point. If they're playing in Los Angeles, that's a home court for Arizona. Yeah. I think Arizona is going to end up a number one seed. But moving on, Rich, did you see the Duke Clemson finish?
Yeah,
which was so controversial.
It makes me sick. Every time you play at Duke, you get hammered by the officials. It's sickening. It really is sickening. Over the years, it's embarrassing those officials do what they did. The last 3 possessions for Duke, they shot foul shots at 15 seconds, 7 seconds,
I know.
and 1 second. Foul shots.
So Bob, now put this in your memory bank. That's not me saying it. It's Rich Basirico saying it.
I got that.
Okay.
I got that. Hey, Duke, Carolina this weekend.
As always, a great game. Duke wins. North Carolina. I'm sorry. North Carolina wins that.
It's in Chapel Hill, so I think we have the edge. But, getting back to the Duke game at the end of the game, they did call, P.J. Hall, who's Clemson's best player, and Filipowski, Duke's best player. They both had 4 fouls going down the end of the game. And I'm saying there's no way they're going to foul these guys out. And sure enough, they kept going to Hall and Filipowski, both teams. And you're right, back and forth. But the second to last call, they did call Filipowski on a foul and fouled him out of the game. P.J. Hall made 2 free throws, and that put Clemson ahead by 1. Now Duke's got the ball, and all they do is go down And I'm sure Rat Jr. Shire said to a Proctor, the point guard, just drive in the lane because you're gonna get the foul. Just go in the lane.
You get the call.
And the thing that disturbed me about the call was if he'd have taken a good shot and gotten fouled, I could have seen it, call a foul. But he didn't deserve the call, Rich. He was flopping and falling into the lane, and he threw the wild thing up there, and they called a foul anyway. And, Tom Crean in the studio, his point was that if the refs weren't calling anything all game, and all of a sudden at the end, they called, everything in the lane they called foul.
Right.
That's not good. That's not good.
I agree. And usually officials at the end of the game don't make any calls because they want the players to decide the game. And there are times they should be making a call. But at Duke, when Krzyzewski was there, and now every call goes that way. It's embarrassing for officials the way they make their calls down the stretch like that. It's terrible. The last 3 possessions, there was a foul called on Clemson. It's terrible.
It's tough to get it.
Some guys let you play. Some guys let you play. That no fouls are called in the last 30 seconds, and these guys are calling foul in the last 3 possessions. Inconsistency. That's terrible.
Rich, Curry has put the Carolina blue haze over you now. Come on.
There you go.
You're coming under his spell. I would love to get to, but I'll wait till next week because it'll still be a story because they'll still be terrible. I want to talk to you guys about how awful USC and UCLA are. I watched them play this last weekend for about 5 minutes and I couldn't take anymore. It was so
unwatchable.
Unwatchable. But I want to get to you guys, and we'll do it next week about just how bad and how they could get to be so bad after decades of being pretty darn good. Bronny James scores 2 points. What I'm getting to is a transition into we're going to talk about the NBA. His dad, who hopes to play with his son someday, just played against his 10th different son of a different father he'd already played against. How mind-boggling is that?
What a great stat that is. That's a great stat.
Wow. We got more mind-boggling NBA numbers and a new generation of tennis and golf stars. We're going to hit Curry's favorite other sport, tennis, when we come back. Under the Bus. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick. Best NBA game this past week was probably Steph Curry and LeBron. Curry goes off for 46. LeBron gets 36. Great game. But those are the old guys. I mean, we got Doncic going off for 73. Embiid going off for 72. 2 guys score in the 60s. Is there any defense? Rich, is there any defense anywhere in the NBA?
When does the NBA play defense in this era? It hasn't happened until the playoffs. Now the playoffs, they step up a little bit, but there's no defense. That's why I can't watch it. I can't watch NBA games until the playoffs because they just run up and down the floor.
Thank you. These are all Bob. These scoring exploits, these splurges, they're all vanity projects. I mean, one guy gets 60 and I'm going to get 70. One guy gets 70. And, they all, of course, did it on the anniversary, the week of Kobe's 81, Kobe Bryant's 81. So they're all going to try and match Kobe. It's ridiculous. And even the LeBron Curry matchup. Okay, come on. It's in what is this, January? And both teams are out of the playoffs as we speak now, right? Golden State and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They're
Lakers are in, but they're way down. Yeah.
None of this matters. I mean, that's
the one thing I like about the NBA right now, and I think this is better than what we had back at the turn of the century. Gosh, that sounds like a long time ago. But when nobody could even score 100, I think this is at least better than that. But the 3 best teams in the NBA West right now are Minnesota, Denver, and Oklahoma City. That's kind of cool to see. Some of the other teams moving up. The Knicks are 4th in the East, Rich.
Yeah, but here's what I love about the NBA. couple of weeks ago, Embiid played Jokic in this great game in Philadelphia, right? They both got like 40, 30, and it was this great game. Now they play the rematch in Denver over the weekend. Okay? Guess who scratched minutes before the game? Embiid.
Right.
Do you know the last time Embiid played in Denver? 2019. 5 years ago is the last time he suited up for Denver, in Denver, because of the altitude or something. Or you think these are all injuries, or is he ducking? I think he's ducking. It's ridiculous.
I think he's ducking.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And now what's more important is he's 6 missed games now from being ineligible to win the MVP award. You know, there's this new rule. The new rule the NBA put in, you have to play 65 games to be eligible for postseason awards. Embiid's 6 missed games away from being ineligible to repeat as MVP. That's pretty important, I think.
Yeah,
and he wasn't even, Philadelphia didn't even put him on the injured list before the game against Denver. And all of a sudden, he said he had soreness in his knee and he doesn't play in the rematch. Come on, NBA. The NBA is a joke.
Back in the day, did you ever see like Russell or any of those all those guys ever be hurt like this and be out? Didn't that Kuzma? All those guys.
How about Jordan? How about Jordan? How about Jordan? I don't think he missed 4 or 5 games a year. They didn't play, if that.
That's right. Yeah, they want to take days off.
No, but is that an amazing stat that Embiid hasn't played in Denver in 5 years? What, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's a crazy stat.
Yeah.
Well, that tells you something right there about it. Doesn't that tell you something about him, that he doesn't want to go up against the best?
Yeah, be better, NBA.
Meanwhile, let's talk about another net sport and let you go, Curry. We're going to talk about the other net sport. 2 new winners in the Australian Open, or actually a repeat winner on the women's side, but 2 young guns and more young guns on the way. Tennis is really turning over, isn't it?
Well, I wish I'd had a mention last week, because I was going to pick Jannik Sinner to win the Australian, the young Italian. He's 22 years old. He looks like he's about 12, but he's been a comer the last 2 or 3 years. You know, the reason I would have picked him is he had beaten Jokic. What's his name? I get him confused.
Djokovic.
He had beaten him 3 or 4 matches in the last couple of years, including in the Davis Cup. They play. Nobody cares about the Davis Cup anymore, but it's a round robin these days. And Italy beat Serbia with him beating Jokovic in the final. He was 3 match downs. He still won the match. So the guy can play Jokovic. And it was the first time Italy's won the Davis Cup in 50 years. And Sinner, I don't know if you saw much of him, but he's 22 and he looks like he's about 12. And he's got the skinniest legs. He looks like he's got these giraffe legs. He's all arms and legs on the court. And his legs are so skinny, they look like they're going to splinter and he's going to fall over at any time. Plus, he's a redheaded, an Italian redhead.
You can't be redheaded and be Italian.
Yeah, figure that. I know. He's got all these redheaded curls, and they asked him after the final how he kept his curls under his cap. He's a funny kid. You know, he's from the Tyrol region in northern Italy, which is right on the Austrian border. And he looks and acts more Austrian than Italian. I mean, he's very calm. He's very collected. He plays within himself at all times. That's why Federer loves this guy. And he kind of says he plays like, he plays within himself, and he never got upset. And
so he doesn't have a temper. He doesn't have a temper.
It doesn't seem like he has a temper.
Well, I say, he's not Italian.
As I say, he's more Austrian. He's more Austrian than Italian. And I stayed up and watched his Djokovic match till like 2 a.m. And, he beat him 6-1, 6-2 in the semis, and he was on his way. And Djokovic won the 3rd set in a tiebreak, but Djokovic, who's the best returner maybe in history, never had a break point against this kid. Wow. In 4 sets, he never had a break point, not to mention a break game. Right. And it's the first time, I think, that I've seen Djokovic actually look old in a semi or a final. And he was 10 for 10 at the Australian Open in semis, and Sinner just took him out. And then in the final, Sinner got behind Medvedev 2-0, and it was no problem. He just kept on. He just wore him out, and at the end, Medvedev was exhausted. And of course, he played a lot of 5-setters up to that time, and Sinner just took him out. So he's a new star. By the way, he's beaten Alcaraz like 4 of 7 matches. He's beaten Alcaraz more than lost to him. So
I was just going to ask you, between Sinner and Alcaraz and Medvedev, does Djokovic ever win another major?
That's a great question. I think he still has 1 or 2 maybe left in him, but when he gets in against these young kids, it's going to be tough for him. The clay in Paris is not his best surface. And Sinner's coming on. There's Alcaraz there. I think Sinner and Alcaraz played this great 5-setter at the U.S. Open 2 years ago. It went like 5 hours and a half, and Alcaraz beat Sinner, but Sinner does have the edge on him in matches. There's this great group of guys that follow Sinner around, and because of his red hair and because he once ate carrots on a changeover at some match, he ate carrots. There's these 5 Italian guys, and they go around dressed as carrots, and they show up at every major, and they're at his match, and they're all dressed as carrots. They call them the Carrata boys because Carrata in Italian is carrot. So
if we see a 6th one, will it be the Pope? Because now the Pope's a big fan.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The Pope with Sinner, kind of like Taylor Swift with Kelce.
Wow,
you should watch for that.
Sinner also made it. Sinner also, just real quickly, Sinner also made a big coaching move in the last year. He hired Darren Cahill off the ESPN, out of the ESPN broadcast booth, who's an former Australian player and a great coach. And Cahill's worked on his service motion, and his serve is a lot different than it was even a year ago.
All right. With no football this weekend, everybody's going to be watching Pebble Beach. And young Nick Dunlap back in action after taking a week off, although he did turn pro during the week. Watch the kid play at the greatest meeting of land and sea in all of the world, Pebble Beach this weekend. Should be a whole lot of fun. And then next week we'll talk some more football. We'll set up the Super Bowl.
Dunlap was on the telecast of the Auburn-Alabama basketball game. Sure. And they asked him about turning pro. This was the night before, and he dodged the question. Then he turned pro the next morning. But more amazing to me, Bob, is that last week we had the first Frenchman to win on the tour since before World War I. Now that's more amazing to me than a rookie. And this guy, what's his name? Mathieu Pavon. And Mr. Pavon, he's in his 30s now, but he won on the tour, a Frenchman winning on the tour. I read where Pavon has a tattoo on the back of his right hand. And in French, it says, "The saliva that flows now will become the tears of joy tomorrow." What is that all about? As if saliva is a bad thing. As if saliva is a bad thing. I mean, you need spit to live. What? I don't understand Frenchman. Maybe you can. Oh, but Bob, wait a minute. One last thing. Did you hear the radio? Did you hear the radio call of Pavon's victory?
No.
This is can't miss audio. There's a guy, Canal Plus is the French channel that televises the PGA tournament. Okay. So there's a Frenchman on there. The Frenchman on there, his name was Adrien Toubiana, and he does the call when Pavon makes his putt to win the tournament. It is epic. It sounds like it's World War I has just finished, or world peace has just begun. You've got to read this on. You got to listen to this guy's call. Bob Stevens used to be my favorite radio golf guy, but I got a new hero now. Adrian.
A hero now.
Adrian.
Throw me under the bus for this guy. There you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Hey, our thanks to our producer, Wesley Kerr, today. We've run out of time. For Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick, we'll see you next week. Under the bus.
Ciao.